Hello and welcome to the Digital Afterlife of Grief, where I do a roundup of what's happening in the news with artificial intelligence and generative art, digital afterlife, all those technology things that are, that crossover from art, entertainment, technology, and whatever else is in the news in relation to that, and to my research, which I hope you'll find quite interesting. So, tech leaders sign letter to halt generative AI, plus the generative AI tech news roundup with Ginger Lou. The Guardian asked if art produced by artificial intelligence could create the aura of a Leonardo da Vinci painting. Aura is a strange term to use when the article discusses technology and intellectual property rather than essence, and how the historical importance of grandness can affect subject and object interaction. This aura affects the viewer when we see the original Mona Lisa because of centuries of historical opinion on its importance to human creativity and culture. Who knows if a piece of art created by AI will have the same effect when the technology is so new? Perhaps return to this article in 200 years' time. For Walter Benjamin, the art of mechanical reproduction diminishes the aura of the actual object, and the replica reproduced is void of aura from the original artifact. The authenticity of an object is tied to centuries of tradition and ritual. The authenticity of an artifact possesses an aura, and there are experiences and engagement with the original artifact that transcends objectness and conveys an aura. And the work loses its aura on reproduction. In art terms, imagine seeing the original Mona Lisa painting on grand display at the Louvre, which I haven't, by the way, and compare your experience with holding a postcard reproduction in your hand. The art looks the same, but it isn't the same because the way it is perceived and viewed is not the same. The original has decades of historians building up its value and importance, and the air of grandness, the excitement, the fact that we line up for hours just to see this thing and pay to see the original painting, but we're not going to do that with a postcard, are we, of the same picture? Compare also seeing the pyramids in Egypt, which I also haven't seen, to seeing a photograph of them in a book. So it's a very different experience. Of course, there's no awe and wonder about it. What I have actually seen is the terracotta army in Xi'an in China. That is amazing in person. There's nothing quite like it, the experience. I've also seen terracotta warriors or copies of them in museums, and it is definitely not the same thing. I've also seen the Grand Canyon because I used to work at the Grand Canyon, driving people back and forth to do tours, and seeing that is a jaw-dropping experience. It is huge, it is vast. If you believe in God, which, I'm on the fence, then it's a spiritual experience. You feel very small, minute, in comparison to this amazing thing which has been around for, centuries and centuries. Of course, if I took photographs of the Grand Canyon. Very disappointed when I saw the photographs because all it is you see a few rocks, you see some of the beautiful colours, which are like pinks, and yellows and blues. But it's you show that to somebody and they're like, yeah, whatever. It's not the same thing. Okay. So one step further is a 21st century comparison of being in the presence of your flesh and bone relative, like your mother, and comparing her real life presence to a photograph of her, which is what we've been doing since the invention of photography. We have been using photography, the photograph, as the referent of somebody we loved. We have photographs of our loved ones dotted around the house or on our phones, and we don't refer to them as, this is a photograph of my mother. You just say, that's my mother. Okay. But now in the 21st century, we have, avatars. We can view our loved ones on an app on our phone. We could communicate with them by texting each other. We could use a company like Storyfile, which is basically like Zoom, and we can have a video and interact with your loved one that way. So what is our perception of human agency presented on different communication and representation devices? In my work as a portrait artist and filmmaker, I explore how technology and narrative are used to create the essence of the subject. In its clearest form, a painting or a photograph of a person posing, smiling, or using props can convey a sense of who the subject is, and a documentary film can explore in more detail a visual autobiography of someone's life. The trend of death technology using artificial intelligence to create and maintain the essence of a loved one after death exploded last year, with companies like Storyfile and hereafter AI hitting consumers in a post-COVID world when living our lives through video conferencing and smart apps is the norm. As I said before, it is really kind of like the market dictates. We're used to posing in front of our smartphones, and we don't care if somebody walks around and films us, where before the invention of the smartphone, we were quite wary of people taking photographs of us. We weren't really, unless you lived in Hollywood, we weren't really clued up in how to pose properly for the camera. Now we're all superstars in front of the camera. So what about the trend in digital death? Will death and remembrance be virtual or natural? Storyfile and hereafter AI are at the forefront of AI-assisted grieving trend that preserves the digital legacies of the deceased and is changing the way we memorialize the dead. The creation of grief technology avatars, or what death technology company hereafter AI calls legacy avatars, are created of living people before they die to console the bereaved after they are gone. Personalized chatbots like Replica have become so convincing to the recently bereaved that when the tech company updated its program a few months ago, it wiped users' history clean. Many complained that their loved ones had died for a second time and took to Reddit to complain. Well, Replica works like a modern-day version of the Yamaguchi toy trend from the 1980s that requires constant feeding for the Yamaguchi to evolve. I'm not sure whether the tech founder would want that comparison, but I like to put it there anyway. I must admit that I got bored with the texting my avatar, which I created some point last year, and prefer to do something more fulfilling with my time, but maybe that is because I'm no longer in bereavement. I would get a message from my avatar every day to converse with her. But yeah, I mean, it's not real. And so, you're texting back and forth. And as she doesn't want to get into politics, you can ask her about politics and she says, no, I don't want to get into that. So, and as you can't talk about the news and what's happening today, then what else is there to talk about? If you can't discuss what's on the TV or your favorite film, but a lot of people use it. I'm not going to knock it. And as I said, I wasn't in bereavement when I used it. Your mindset is completely different when you're in bereavement. And I'm talking about not just death, but I mean, it could be, your marriage breakup, whatever. You're looking for some kind of comfort that way. And, especially during COVID, isolation, lockdown, a lot of us isolated and lonely. It's weird then that the app wasn't really marketed to an older generation, who are perhaps also isolated. And I'm not saying that young people aren't isolated and lonely too, but please don't forget the old people. Old people are still part of the society and still want to be part of what's going on in the world, and very often they are ignored, especially when there are still millions of people out there who still can't use a computer or use a smartphone, and people get forgotten, which is really sad. So we cling to communication devices, videos, pictures, and objects of the dead to remember and honor them. The legacy created can occur immediately after death or 20 years after the fact, because everyone responds to grief differently. Grief is personal and unique. How we deal with it can push us into positive action or self-destruction. I was in my 20s when my father died, and after the initial shock, I went down a path of self-destruction. I'm not going to go into the details. My mother died 20 years later, and although I was better prepared for her passing, she had dementia, so we knew it was going to happen at some point. So even though that we knew that she was going to die at some point, and after her death, the grief still lingers 5 years on. Take for instance shopping at my mother's favourite supermarket. Walking down familiar aisles fills me with dread for the sad emotions that surface from the memories of us shopping together. Happens every time. Right after my mum died, I was crying going down the aisle, so I never went back for a while. But then I thought, come on, get over yourself. You need to be able to do this and test yourself and kind of get over it. But, each time I go, even now, I'll start thinking about, when we were shopping together years ago. And I'm talking a long time ago, when I was probably still living at home. And so, it's doesn't make me happy, unfortunately, because then it just reminds me of those times. So it's amazing how some things trigger, which is why a lot of people put photographs of their loved ones away in boxes, because if we see them, we might start losing it altogether. Millions of Android iPhone users must arrange their digital afterlife affairs according to leading cybersecurity experts. Users should action a 3-step checklist that includes making a plan, no shit, taking a digital inventory, and designating a digital heir. I've also been reading about Swedish death cleaning, which is kind of an organic way of a digital death cleaning, I suppose, which has been around longer than AI and helps those living to plan with the head and not the heart when downsizing, and to be mindful of the stuff we leave behind for wary relatives. Now, my aunt was great at this, but she was upwards in years. She was 80s and 90s, and so she would move and get rid of stuff and give stuff away, which is exactly what they tell you to do in the Swedish death cleaning. And they tell you to be, as I said, think with your head. Otherwise, you're just going to keep everything. And also it tells you don't get upset if the stuff that you give away is then given away, which, can be heartbreaking. If it's something that means a lot to you and you give it to a relative and it doesn't mean anything to them and they just sell it or something. It's telling you don't get upset about that. At the end of the day, it's just objects and things, and clutter and that kind of stuff. But if we do it digitally, I'll tell you what, the amount of stuff that I've got on, digitally online, thousands and thousands of photographs, etc., etc., etc. Have I sorted that out? Have I made a list of, the stuff that I've got online, the passwords, all that? I mean, do I need to do that? Because if you got things like Flickr, once I'm gone, when they can't withdraw any more money to pay for, the monthly subscription, then the whole thing will close down and stop anyway. And I don't think for 1 minute, why would a relative want, those thousands, hundreds of thousands of photos? What would they do with them? The mind boggles. It really does. Rather have objects and things and stuff like that, which is the kind of stuff that I'm studying for my PhD, which is about material and digital things that we relate to our loved ones. And whether a material object has more meaning to it than a digital object. Americans are looking for a greener way to die, with the popularity of greener death companies in Los Angeles and New York who have moved to legalize human composting. That's right. We're not talking about putting your dead loved ones in the allotment to grow your carrots, nothing like that. But New York is the 6th state to legalize human composting. after an industry grown since COVID, when the city ran out of burial plots and brought death to the forefront when exposed bi-coastal environmental concerns. Is there death in the metaverse? Digital architect and designer Mariana Capigirara, sorry if I've got your name wrong, love, envisage death in the metaverse, where cemeteries are in the sky with memorial spaces for capsules called memory capsule cemeteries. Thanatologist and founder of the School of American Thanatology, Cole Imperi, again, sorry if I've got your name wrong, sees digital spaces that seamlessly connect the dead to the living. Cole addresses thanatechnology, a subtext of thanatology. They're really hard to pronounce these names, but there you go. The digital afterlife offers more opportunity for continued bonds with our deceased loved ones, and I believe also has the greatest opportunity for advancement in how we memorialize and remember our loved ones. Incidentally, sci-fi writer Neil Stephenson coined the term metaverse in 1992, way back then. So there you go. So photography and AI, what's happening with the apps? I know that they've been taking a dive recently. So a Lenser is an AI-driven image generator that produces cosmetically enhanced selfies. Now anyone can produce professional-looking images with no training. Great. Great for amateurs, but what does it mean for professionals like me and others? But a recent San Francisco ballet poster was created by Midjourney for the visual campaign of the Nutcracker, along with 30 human artists that created images in the style of specific artists. I mean, that's a story from a few months back, but it's just to show you that, well, you know, they didn't hire a photographer, they didn't hire an illustrator, or they didn't hire a graphic artist. So they all did it on Midjourney. So we all have a right to be worried, folks, about our jobs. Shutterstock uses users' pics to train Meta AI. The company extended its partnership with Meta and utilized users' pictures to train Meta AI. Shutterstock is to provide meta content for the group's investment in AI and uses data sets from Shutterstock to train Meta's machine learning capabilities. They say creators will be compensated, but don't go into details. Content that uses their IP is created and licensed by customers. AI generators are trained by data sets containing millions of user images or photographs. Adobe was also exposed for using customer files for AI datasets without consent and compensation and asked customers to opt in. You can see my other podcasts which go into that a bit more about copyright and law and the legal battles that have been going on. In a recent Twitter statement that echoes similarities with Victorian painters about the impending juggernaut of photography, the Society of Illustrators say that it opposes commercial use of artificially manufactured images. So they've put a stop to it straight away, if they can tell which ones have been artificially created, that is. Images created by the graphic novelist Chris Castanova, who used Midjourney AI, have lost their copyright application because the artwork was created by a machine. Now, this story's been going on for a few months now. The creator of Zara of the Dawn disagrees with the decision. The Copyright Office said that her images are not the product of the human authorship and therefore cannot be copyrighted. Castanova said it was an expression of her creativity and therefore copyrightable. But in a turnaround on March 16th, the US Copyright Office stated that AI-assisted works could now be eligible for copyright protection. But they don't really go into details about what they consider to be AI-assisted and how much it is assisted. Expect that decision to flip-flop and expect more law cases as well. So we are in an AI revolution, as you already know. A group of MIT Google men has compared the revolution of the Enlightenment period in 17th century Europe to the AI revolution, declaring it an intellectual revolution, and argued that, when coupled with human reason, stands to be more powerful means of discovery than human reason alone. GPT works by drawing connections and patterns between sources and primary text. It's a new kind of thinking, but how is this part of human evolution when it is machine-based? History is about human advancement. AI is part of that as a creation by humans, but when AI creates without human intervention, then it cannot be compared to the Enlightenment period. AI and research. According to MIT Technology Review, new research into AI generative practices has found that AI models can produce identifiable photos of real people and thereby threaten privacy, copyright, and security. Researchers from Google, UC Berkeley, DeepMind, Pointech, and ETH Zurich gathered their results by populating Google's Imagine and Stable Diffusion with image captions such as a person's name. The results were analysed to detect if any generated images matched the original images from the model's vast database. The research group found 100 replica images from the AI training set. Well, no one's surprised, are we? Data sets are scraped from the internet, changing one pixel at a time until the original image is a group of random pixels. The AI model revises this process and turns the group of pixels into a new image. This research is the first of its kind to prove that AI models memorize images in training sets. This creates enormous privacy concerns for government and public agencies and healthcare because the AI systems risk leaking private information. Safeguards are needed to prevent privacy and security infringement, but is anyone surprised by the results of this research? It's just another example of tech companies rushing innovations to consumers and addressing the fallout after the problem, right? How many times has this happened with for artists and illustrators and writers and their IP? They've rushed it out and they've not thought about the consequences. So no wonder big tech influencers like Elon Musk and Steve Wozniak have signed an open letter with 1,100 industry experts expressing their concerns over the speed of AI disrupting society. Fueled by ChatGPT's ability to wipe out the careers of writers and even expressing dystopian concerns for the end of humanity and the loss of control of our civilization, that's a quote. The letter asked to pause training new systems that are more powerful than GPT-4 for 6 months. There are additional concerns about its ability to fuel propaganda, fake news, and dismantle security. The break would be used to develop safety protocols and suggest AI developers work in collaboration with policymakers to develop new laws and regulations around AI and AI research. It was about time. GPT-4 and OpenAI were released with much fanfare and enthusiasm, which soon deteriorated once the potential to replace human jobs and creativity was realised. Digital artists are pushing back against AI generative systems using the hashtag #NoToAIArt. Artists protesting against AI-generated images state that these systems are using artists' work without compensation and permission. The campaign started last December and is gaining momentum. Visual artist and Bulgarian illustrator Alexander Nanichkov, my apologies again about your name, sent out the hashtag #NoToAIArt to highlight the digital art platform. ArtStation's refusal to protest artists from AI scraping. Getty Images is suing Stability AI for IP breach rights. Dutch artist The Art Fish likened it to stealing music and compared it to the case against LimeWire in 2010 when the music platform was found guilty of copyright infringement. The London Photographers Gallery Instagram page was criticised for posting AI generative art with overwhelmingly negative comments about the true meaning of photography. Mattia Di Giano Rio AI generative art series Los Santas was posted on the gallery's site. Photographer Thomas Russi commented, "In the process of generating an image with AI, there is no active drawing, there is no light in the process, it's just a bunch of ones and zeros, which depends on the work of real photographers whose images are used without permission. Photographers struggle to get recognition and be recognised. Defenders say it's like photography and painting in 1822 and the struggles and the fears that painters had back then. But is it the same? Facial recognition technology is stealing dead people's pictures, a glaringly obvious problem I predicted months ago. Pim Eyes is a face search engine that crawls the web to help users monitor their online presence. The facial scanner was found to be populating its database with images of the dead, and according to Wired, scraping digital memorial images from the website Ancestry.com without permission. Pim Eyes says there was unintentional and have blocked their crawlers from the Ancestry.com website and deleted the images. Does anyone test anything? I mean, this example is much in line with generative AI companies racing to get their technology out and to the world without testing. See my previous Medium article. Apart from copyright and IP concerns, it has created a big storm of AI ethical repercussions when using sensitive and personal data information without consent. But thankfully, there are privacy advocates and watchdogs, but few limits exist for facial recognition engines and the privacy of the deceased. More regulation is needed, and EU law forbids pictures of dead people where they have a privacy interest for the living. I mean, it's not nice, really. If you think that your picture that you've got tucked away on a Facebook page could be scraped and be used for something else, and you have no idea what it's going to be used for. Sorry for killing most of humanity. This is an San Francisco exhibition that explores the dangers of AI at the Misalignment Museum temporary pop-up exhibition, which is running until May the 1st. The concept of the museum is that we are in a post-apocalyptic world where artificial intelligence has already destroyed most of humanity, said curator Audrey Kim. One show is an AI generative dialogue between philosopher Slavoj Žižek and filmmaker Werner Herzog, called Infinite Conversation. There's a mediation on deep fakes, image, sound, and video that manipulates and impersonates this information weapons online. The temporary exhibition is about the future of AI and how it is warning to what science fiction films and literature have been predicting all along. It's the end of mankind, folks. That's what it's predicting. AI creates images from brain scans. AI reads brain scans and recreates images like a picture of our thoughts and dreams. Using Stable Diffusion text-to-image generative AI, the Japanese researchers added training sets that link text descriptions to brain patterns when observed by participants in brain scan studies. Incorporating photo captions into the algorithm, incorporating textual and visual information to decipher the brain, according to cognitive neuroscience Ariel Goldstein at Princeton University, who was not connected to the study. So it's basically like visualizing dream images. Actually having a picture of your dream or nightmare. So you've got to think about that too. At the South by Southwest panel, the Entertainment Industry Coalition released 7 principles to support human creativity. The coalition of music industry organizations joined together for core principles to protect authorship, IP, and copyright. On a panel named Welcome to the Machine, Art in the Age of AI, developers' licenses for artists' works, creative interests, and policymakers' issues were discussed. I came across a new term in Petapixel magazine this week. It's called it's a synthographer. So what is a synthographer? Is it a photographer that plays synthesizer, plays dance music? No, it's not. Synthographer is a mashup of synthesis and photographer, and is used to describe artists creating digital media from AI generators. I'm not sure whether anybody is going to understand that by calling yourselves a synthographer. I'm just going to think that you make dance music. That's what I can just see. You use synthesizers. OpenAI's co-founder Greg Brockman stated that generative AI is an amplification of what humans can do. You know what? I think it's heartbreaking that humans are destroying the natural world and tech entrepreneurs are creating virtual humans and virtual worlds. It is sad to think we are more likely to see a virtual elephant than a real one. And one day we will never leave our homes and we will stop communicating in person. That's not what technology should be about at the end of the day, should it? So will AI destroy Hollywood? Small independents and artists should be wary. So Hollywood has always embraced changes and revolutionized creativity and society as a whole, from silent films to talkies, cinema to TV to streaming. Technology has posed a constant threat to the status quo. When Wired suggests that AI isn't the villain of Hollywood, but rather its flawed hero, I refer to the invention of the talkies. Sound wasn't invented to destroy silent pictures. It was invented to advance filmmaking and consumer experience. Imagine if Hollywood in the 1920s rejected new sound synchronization and didn't produce talking pictures. Television in the 1950s and 60s posed a threat to cinematic films when many of the cheap movies churned out at a fast rate moved to TV. And to combat this, cinematic films played with aspect ratio, those big, huge letterbox widescreen surround sound things that they had back then, and the promise of an experience, something huge, big at the cinema. Videos, DVDs, and streaming have all posed a threat to the cinema. Look what happened to COVID, with everything's streaming. It's not this. You want a big movie, you want to see that at the cinema. You don't want to see it on your laptop or on your TV or on your phone. It's just not the same experience, is it? And basically, streaming has just become like television, hasn't it? The streaming, the made for streaming, the made for TV, the made for streaming films are like made for TV films, aren't they? Then they don't have the big blockbuster feel. They don't have the big excitement that comes with big Hollywood movies, The options we have to view content have produced an explosion of film and TV production, and artificial intelligence is just another revolution that creates a new way of doing things while everyone in Hollywood adjusts their skills accordingly. If you look at AI as a tool rather than an evil that will end jobs and destroy mankind, then we will adapt and evolve. What will take a hit are small independent films as they continue to struggle for big screen audiences and rely on streaming companies for distribution. Without the festival experience that creates buzz for small films like Little Miss Sunshine, streaming can kill small projects. Studios use algorithms and predictive analysis to greenlight films, which is concerning for creative and independent projects. Artificial intelligence that predicts which stories, cast, and crew can make or break a film means that creativity is dead and only Marvel films will be made. Sorry, Marvel. Computer scientists, engineers, and concept artists are driving films instead of writers, actors, and filmmakers. With AI being used to analyze scripts and the market profitability of actors, it's easy to see that independent films, women, and people of color are up against a huge profitable franchises like Marvel. Sorry, Marvel. Actors no longer have to be on set during filmmaking or even have to be alive. Think of that. This has caused many to protect their rights. The actor Michael Douglas is protecting and licensing his likeness so that his family retains intellectual property rights after he's gone. The actor said, "You get to an age where you start to think about your will and an estate. Now I'm thinking I'm also going to have to license my name and likeness so that the rights go to my family rather than the metaverse." And he's absolutely right there, isn't he? Douglas and others are right to be concerned for their IP when artificial intelligence can create the likeness of people, including their voices. Keanu Reeves recently expressed concerns about deep fakes. "What's frustrating about this is that you lose agency," he said. "When you perform in a film, you know you're going to be edited, but you're participating in that. If you go into deep fake land, it has none of your points of view." There are still ethical questions about using AI to create the likeness of the dead when legal provisions have not been put in place to protect or exploit estates. What of the rights of film stars and musicians who died before the invention of AI? Do they not have a right to their agency and the right to be laid to rest? I mean, is it right that, say, the family, the distant cousins, the grandchildren, whoever run the estate of a big film star who died maybe in the 80s or the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, are allowed to have that person's image in films or in commercials? Isn't there a respect for those that have died? There is a legal precedent in place for when Egyptian mummies and the like are found. They are actually given respect, and that how long ago did they die? So, it's giving agency to the dead and having the right to the dead. When we all die, we have a right to be respected. Our body is to be placed in a certain place. To be buried, to be cremated. We have a right to that respect when we die. So why not? So when you're thinking about recreating somebody as an avatar, somebody's image or voice to make money in the future, who gives the right to that? Certainly not actors who died in the 1950s and 60s and all the way up. Synthetic media relies on machine learning tools to do a range of tasks like streamlining production and post-production workflows that create, edit, and animate from a text prompt. Hollywood will continue to innovate because it's always looking at ways to streamline production and cut costs and labor. AI is used for various visual effects like battleground and crowd scenes, and to create digital faces like de-aging, and for cosmetic purposes. The documentary Welcome to Chechnya created AI personas to disguise the interviewees instead of using actors. And AI created the late artist Andy Warhol's voice for a documentary. Before AI, a voice actor would have been employed, and because there is nothing to gain in the narrative for using AI except for novelty and publicity purposes, I think, the only artists losing out are the voice actors. Vanity AI by Canadian VFX studio Mars uses AI to digitally render and de-age actors. The small tech company has worked on big blockbusters such as Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, and Spider-Man No Way Home. AI-driven tech cosmetically alters and enhances skin and hairline and ages or de-ages actors. Vanity AI can also fix cosmetics in a single-day turnaround, saving time and money. Cosmetic touch-ups can also replace principal photography. A new Center for Generative AI and Society explores the transformative impact of AI on culture, society, media, and education. The $10 million center will seed research from influential experts from the fields of computer science, film, media, and education, and create innovative generative AI projects. Willow Bain, Dean of the Annenberg School of Communication and Journalism, said, AI is poised to redefine how we communicate, create content, and contemplate our world and its truths. We have an imperative to unite journalists, media makers, artists, and storytellers to design new investigative methods and technical tools that interrogate AI's transformative power, helping to realize its potential as a positive force. That sounds like a really cool place to learn, doesn't it? In January, the Writers Guild of America West shared their concerns with the protection of writers from the ChatGPT. In a statement, they said, "We're monitoring the development of ChatGPT and similar technologies in the event they require additional protection for writers." So I expect more to develop with regards to that. I expect the unions to get out and also maybe go on strike as well. There's going to be battle between the unions and the big studios, for sure. Hundreds of millions of dollars are poured into AI startup investment as it is hailed as the greatest revolution since the last one. Does Hollywood have a right to be anxious about AI revolutionizing the industry? On Christmas Day last year, my niece's husband was flicking through the television channel menu when he declared that we've all been thinking since the beginning of COVID. Why were there no big exciting movies? Despite living in a post-COVID world, there were few new big movies available on streaming platforms. Instead, there are platform-created movies that have none of the big budgets and excitement of a studio film and all of the look and feel of a made-for-television movie, as I stated before. Maybe that's the point, though. Maybe we shouldn't be watching a big blockbuster movie on our laptops or smartphones. And maybe we shouldn't be getting all excited and worried about the future of technology. Maybe we just see what happens. Thanks for listening.